Empire Television, Kern County In Depth with 17's Jim Scott.
Welcome. Good to have you with us this weekend. On Monday, the California Supreme Court vacated the death sentence for a condemned man from Delano. Vicente Benavides, now 68, has spent the last 24 years on death row. Prosecutors in 1993 tried him for raping and murdering 2-year-old Consuelo Verdugo, and the jury convicted him of first-degree murder. But the high court said the prosecutors and the jury got it wrong. Their case hinged in large part on findings by doctors that years later were labeled as false evidence. 17's Olivia La Voice broke this story 2 weeks ago. Here's the first part of her investigation into this questionable conviction.
The people who live here in this apartment complex say they're shocked to find out what happened.
3 months before her second birthday, Consuelo Verdugo suffered major internal trauma to her body. She spent 8 days in 3 hospitals, treated by a dozen doctors. The question that needed to be answered, how did this little girl die?
It was here in this quiet Delano apartment complex that the most brutal child abuse case in the city's history took place.
It is difficult to believe that someone would do this to another human being.
The man accused of killing the child, 42-year-old Vicente Benavides. Prosecutors told a jury that back in November 1991, Benavides was babysitting his live-in girlfriend's 2 daughters, a 9-year-old and 21-month-old Consuelo. The day turned tragic when Benavides said he found her outside, struggling to stay conscious. The only visible sign of injury was a bruise to her forehead. Doctors at Delano Regional Medical Center realized the baby had internal bleeding. She was transferred to KMC. KMC doctors determined the toddler had trauma to her genitalia and rectum. She was taken to UCLA, where she died. During the autopsy, it was determined Consuelo died in a horrific manner. She was raped, causing severe internal damage. Vicente Benavides, a quiet farm laborer from Mexico with no criminal record, was charged with first-degree murder in the course of rape.
Does it matter, really?
The prosecution's medical experts, including KMC's Dr. Jess Diamond, stated the girl had been sexually assaulted.
Dr. Jess Diamond is one of the foremost authorities in child abuse across the country.
The pediatrician specialized in child abuse cases, testifying hundreds of times for the prosecution. On the other side of the courtroom, the defense said the girl was possibly hit by a car, but there was little physical evidence to support that theory.
Within the span of 15 minutes that the child had been left in his care, this damage occurred to the child.
Yeah, it challenged a lot of my religious faith big time.
Gordon Jones was a juror.
I just couldn't, in my mind, fathom someone killing, and in the fashion they did, a baby like that.
We, the jury,
he is the lowest form of human life.
The murder of Consuelo Verdugo,
And I'm certainly not going to change what I call him.
Was committed by the defendant Vicente Benavides.
Child rape is killer.
While the said defendant was engaged in the commission or attempted commission of rape.
He should be put to death for his crimes.
She had a lot of trauma and died from trauma, all inflicted within 15 minutes of time at the very least.
Each juror voted for death, except for one.
The last holdout was me for the death penalty.
The jury foreman had a request.
He asked the bailiff to have the judge to send in the pictures of that little girl again. They circulated those. And then he said, if that doesn't call for a death penalty, what does?
A second look at the graphic crime scene photos resulted in a unanimous vote for death.
Mr. Benavides has spent the last 24 years on death row, convicted of murder based on false evidence.
This is where this case takes a big turn. 9 years ago, one of the prosecution's expert witnesses made a startling discovery. According to this declaration, Dr. Jess Diamond says in 2009, he was able to review all of Consuelo's medical records that weren't provided to him in 1991 or 1993. Diamond says after reviewing all of the medical records for the first time, he no longer believes the child was sexually assaulted. Furthermore, he says the cause of death determined by the pathologist is medically impossible.
As extent of my knowledge,
And this habeas corpus petition says the initial medical staff did not observe any trauma to the girl's genitalia. Support reporting claims the injuries were inadvertently inflicted during medical procedures at the second or third hospital. With these revelations, even the State Attorney General's office acknowledges the allegations of sexual abuse are now classified as false evidence.
I want to show you something, Dr. Diamond. He says after reviewing those medical records, he has completely changed his opinion, and now he believes that the child was not sexually assaulted.
Oh, really?
Here, you can...
That's unbelievable.
Jones took his time to read over the documents. As I explained, what makes this case significant is it's not just the defense saying that there was error in the prosecution's case. It's the Attorney General's office as well.
And that opens up quite a door. You can't believe anything that's said there.
The false evidence permeated the entire trial proceedings.
The Attorney General's resolution stripped the first-degree murder conviction and death penalty, but they want to keep Benavides behind bars and reduce the charge to second-degree murder. That doesn't sit well with Benavides' attorneys. They want the case retried.
This is among the most hair-raising false evidence that I've encountered in all the time I've been looking at criminal cases.
Justice Carol Corrigan's response to the second-degree murder option?
They're together for 15 minutes, and for no discernible reason, the DA's theory is he decides to, or currently the people's theory is, he decides to batter this child with such force as to inflict these injuries. There are a few gaps in that testimony.
Both sides presented their arguments to the state Supreme Court.
The victim was left in petitioner's care for a maximum of 15 minutes, and that when those 15 minutes were over, her pancreas had been torn in half by being smashed against her spinal cord.
And this vicious attack in 15 minutes of such a sexual nature, it precluded the jury from realistically considering any other possible perpetrator or the possibility that the child wandered outside and was hit by a car. This evidence, if it's harrowing to experienced judicial officers, to a jury of 12 people, they didn't hear anything else, frankly, and it precluded the possibility of other theories of non-liability or theories of causation, because it was so galvanizing and horrible. That's the problem. It's not just the duality, the dueling of the experts. It was this bomb that was dropped on the jury. They couldn't hear or see anything else after that.
But when you're sitting there and you're presented with this, and the professionals, the physicians, that's a good question for the State Attorney General to have a look at. Then somebody needs to be in court, and it isn't Mr. Benavides.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, we hope to get it right the first time, and certainly, everyone, this was a painful case for everyone.
A key witness who helped send a man to death row admits he didn't get it right the first time.
The physical difference in size.
Most of what I learned about prosecuting child molest or other sexual assault cases came from Dr. Diamond.
Dr. Diamond's change of opinion has sent a shockwave throughout this case.
Dr. Diamond was present at the autopsy. I'm not sure how to say it. Opinions 20 years later that don't seem to make sense given the jury's verdict. It's troubling. We still have a dead child here that there's no one really speaking for.
All this time, this has went by. I even dreamt a lot about that trial. And we come down to this. And how are they going to hold another trial based on what? If they had no trial to begin with, based on what? This is like unbelievable.
Both sides agree the autopsy is wrong, but what really happened to the little girl in those 15 minutes that caused her such severe internal damage? Dr. Diamond, who says he was very troubled by this case and his findings, consulted an expert with no ties to either the prosecution or defense to review the case.
I mean, Dr. Hager's work, speaks for itself. I mean, she is the preeminent expert in the Western United States.
The findings by Dr. Astrid Hager, widely acclaimed as one of the top experts in the child abuse field, reveal that she not only believes Consuelo was not sexually assaulted, she also says she doesn't believe the child was physically abused either, saying the extent and severity of organ damage and injury to Consuelo's chest are far more consistent with having been run over by an automobile than having been hit, kicked, or squeezed by a person. Hager goes on to say, given my review of the evidence, I am convinced this is the most egregious case of mistaken allegations of sexual and physical abuse that I have encountered in over 2.5 decades of working in the field of child abuse. Tragically for Consuelo's family, her death is more a mystery now than the day she died. Dr. Jess Diamond is now 100 years old, and his failing memory prevented him from speaking directly to this case. Ed Jagels, the district attorney at the time, didn't return calls for this story. Current district attorney Lisa Green says if the Supreme Court overturns the conviction, the case would likely be too difficult to retry. Attorneys on both sides declined interviews due to the pending legal decision. Consuelo's family members declined to comment. Vicente Benavides, now 68, continues to sit on death row, still denying he killed Consuelo.
Now, the state Supreme Court had until April 3rd to make its decision on whether Vicente Benavides was wrongfully convicted and condemned to die. But the High Court took less than 2 weeks to render its decision. We'll pick up the story there after the break. You're watching a special edition of Kern County In Depth.
No time like now to save on a new sleep system during the Mattress Markdown event at all Earners Z's Please Sleep Centers. Save up to 50% on select Tempur-Pedic and Sealy floor models. Or this Serta Queen memory foam mattress with adjustable base, only $8.99. With our proprietary U-Sleep diagnostics, we'll custom fit your unique body shape and size to the perfect sleep system. And up to 60 months, 0% financing, plus a 100-night trial. So don't miss the Mattress Markdown event at both Z's Please Sleep Centers.
I'm Jim Philbrad with Stars Theater Restaurant in downtown Bakersfield. The famous country and western composer Roger Miller wrote the musical Big River, the show that opens our 2018 season. Let me tell you, you won't want to miss Huck Finn and his good friend Jim singing River in the Rain, the signature song from the show. Big River is a story that stays in your heart long after the curtain closes. I'll see you at Stars.
San Joaquin Tires and Wheel would like to thank our community for over 15 years of business. Our professional technicians service brakes, alignment, suspension, shocks, tire sensors, and more. We're committed to continue providing the most reliable, honest automotive repair service in Bakersfield.
You hear the big news? What? No? It's the Honda Dream Garage Spring Event, and it's happening now. Did you see the size of that logo? Check out this brainy lawnmower, and would you look at this Civic? Yeah, this is no ordinary Civic. It's a Honda Civic with sport mode. You know what's in here that's faster than sport mode? Okay, the Indy car, but that's mine.
The Honda Dream Garage Spring Event is on now. You could get a great deal on the Civic at KBB.com Best Buy for 2018.
Now your KernGoldenEmpire.com pros who know.
Ready to go solar? Choose both a premium product and expert installer. SunPower by Quality Home Services is the best in the market. Call today.
For more expert advice, go to KernGoldenEmpire.com/pros who know.
Welcome back. 5 days ago, the death sentence for Vicente Benavides was vacated 26 years after he was arrested for the murder of Consuelo Verdugo. It's incredibly rare for the state Supreme Court to completely overturn a death penalty conviction, but the High Court said the false evidence used to win this conviction was so overwhelming that the conviction had to be reversed. Their decision was unanimous. Vicente Benavides was convicted of first-degree murder in 1993, but in 2009, 16 years later, Dr. Jess Diamond, as we we mentioned, who testified for the prosecution at trial that the child was raped, recanted his testimony. He says after he reviewed the girl's medical records, he completely changed his mind about what caused her internal injuries. Other doctors who testified that the child was sexually assaulted also later recanted. Justices cite several medical experts who reviewed the case who say the cause of death determined by the pathologist in 1991 was, quote, absurd. And another doctor interviewed by the state attorney general's office says she's embarrassed the pathologist didn't know anatomy better. Doctors now believe the cause of death is blunt force trauma to the abdomen. But how that happened to 21-month-old Consuelo Verdugo may never be known. Some experts theorize the girl could have been hit by a car. And now the big question is, what happens next? 17's Olivia La Voice joins me, along with Robert Carbone, local attorney who prosecuted Vicente Benavides in 1993, and local defense attorney David Torres, a frequent contributor to Kern County In Depth when we are discussing legal issues. Thank you all for being here. The High Court ruled, in essence, that Mr. Benavides didn't receive a fair trial based on the false evidence presented that led to his conviction. Mr. Torres, I want to start with you, and briefly, your take on the High Court's decision to vacate this death sentence.
I think it was the correct decision based upon my review of the case. When they're talking about the false evidence, you have a string of physicians who have who personally worked on or treated this young girl at the time, and they did not have all of the information before them at that particular time, and then subsequently when they testified, again, they lacked all of the medical reports. So given that, their analysis and opinion was incorrect, and I think it was the proper decision.
Mr. Carbone, can you, on an intellectual level, accept the Supreme Court's decision here?
Well, actually, I think the Supreme Court made the only decision that was available to it, given what it was left with, which is that the Attorney General's office actually agreed to and stipulated that there was, quote, false evidence, end quote, involved in the case. And with that agreement that there was not sexual abuse, the only argument the Attorney General had left was that the High Court should keep a second-degree conviction. The High Court expressed itself in no uncertain terms that that was an absurd argument to make because the case had all of this information regarding the abuse of the child that appeared to be sexual in nature, and therefore it was tainted. So the Attorney General's idea that somehow he would continue to be convicted of a second-degree murder by the Supreme Court seems not very well placed, and the idea to stipulate to false evidence without any attempt to litigate that issue, to me, doesn't make any sense.
All right, Olivia La Voice, I know you've got a lot of questions. We got about 2 minutes left in this segment. Fire away.
So now that the state Supreme Court has sent the case back to Kern County and District Attorney Lisa Green, the ball is really in her court. I want to know how you both think a case like this would hold up in front of a jury now that it seems so much of the key evidence has been discredited that was presented to the jury in 1993. Mr. Carbone, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, just because experts have written opinions, you know, decades later that question individual circumstances and often say things like, I believe this occurred, or it would have happened this way, or this individual made a mistake, does not mean that that opinion is going to stand up in front of a jury under cross-examination. These are untested witnesses who have come from different places around the country, been hired by the defense, paid money, and have provided their opinions. And to me, the salient point is that the Attorney General's office did not contest the issue, did not speak to many of the witnesses that were involved, and simply let the issue go.
Okay. David Torres, go ahead and answer that question before we go to break.
Well, just very briefly, my apologies, but let me just touch on something that Robert's talking about. He's talking about opinions that were written subsequent to the testimony. But I think what's important for folks to understand is that the Attorney General has a standard of conduct, an ethical code that they must abide by, and so do the prosecutors. And so, for the most part, during the 10 years or so that the writ of habeas corpus had been drafted vetted and had been being prepared, this Attorney General had an obligation to review all of the testimony. He had the opportunity to hire experts on his own, again, to buttress any of these opinions that were made by these doctors or to bring in his own expert opinions. And ultimately, he did have an opportunity to speak to one of the preeminent experts in the world who, for the most part, changed his opinion. So he has to abide by an ethical standard of conduct, which is why, in my opinion, he ended up conceding to the false evidence statement.
Okay. All right, we've got to take a brief recess, as they say in the courtroom, right? We're back after the break. You are watching Kern County In Depth.
There's probably some pretty big names here checking out these half-price floats.
Oh, look, here are those two guys.
What are they famous for?
I think for eating here all the time.
Are we good at eating here or what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on. For a limited time, get real ice cream slushes, shakes, and floats half price after 8 p.m.
Come on. I can't believe I'm still waiting for the cable guy. That's it. I give up. I'm taking a shower.
Don't go! Oh my goodness, I'm here! Seriously? An entire day wasted for this.
I hear you. Now let's change that.
Yes.
Stop waiting for the cable guy. Get reliable 75-minute arrival windows with Dish. Ranked #1 in customer service nationally by J.D. Power and our customers. Dish. Tuned into you.
Save big with Weatherbys March Markdown Mania. Prices slashed on living room groups and a variety of styles. Save on a huge selection of bedroom groups with exciting styles and finishes. Reductions on dining rooms with selections from casual to formal settings. Super March Markdowns in one of the area's largest lane recliner displays. Save with reductions on quality Simmons and Serta mattress sets. Plus, get free delivery and setup. Don't miss Weatherbys March Markdown Mania. Weatherbys Furniture since 1921.
We like Personal Express because we can actually walk into an office and talk to a person. You don't have to pick up a phone and talk to an automated voice. You can actually just walk in, have your question answered face-to-face. Well, we save a lot of money with the discounts over at Personal Express Insurance, the multi-car discount,
good driver,
the home and auto,
and the home alarm.
You're supporting your neighbors, you're supporting the people that live in your area.
I think you should say that. That gave me goosebumps.
I just did.
Personal Express Insurance on Truxton Extension and in the marketplace.
A cheeseburger that's under 350 calories?
Feels like we're getting away with something. You thinking what I'm thinking?
Crossing the border and changing our names?
No, ordering shakes and changing our names.
Get our new flavor pack Sonic Signature Slingers starting at just $1.99. Available for a limited time.
Welcome back. After 26 years behind bars, most of it on death row, Vicente Benavides could soon be a free man now that the state Supreme Court has vacated his death penalty conviction for the murder of little Consuelo Verdugo in 1991. Olivia La Voice, I know you had a follow-up question you wanted to ask these two gentlemen.
What do you think should be done with the case now?
Well, I believe that the case, once it gets back over here to Kern County, Lisa Green and her staff are going to have an opportunity to review the facts of the case and make the ultimate determination whether or not they're going to retry the case, and if so, how are they going to proceed with the retrial. One of the things that we have to think about as a community is whether or not that is a viable option. That's going to take millions of dollars to retry a case for a person who's been in prison for well over 27 years. But again, that is the choice of the district attorney's office. But if they do try the case, I can tell you this much, based upon what I've reviewed and what I would anticipate happening at a jury trial, I think the trial would last anywhere from 6 to 8 months, and I think Mr. Carbone would agree with that, even though it is no longer a death penalty case. Just the way that cases are now tried, cases take a lot longer to try because of so many rules that we have to comply with, and of course a case like this you're going to be in a fishbowl, so to speak. But personally, I believe that that it would be perhaps a waste of money to retry Mr. Benavides.
Mr. Carbone, if you were in Lisa Green's shoes, what would you do?
Well, I don't want to answer the question in that way. I really respect Lisa Green.
Sure.
She's an excellent prosecutor, an excellent DA, and whatever she chooses is the right answer for the DA's office as far as I'm concerned. From a personal standpoint, and the lawyer who was involved previously in speaking strictly for Consuelo Verdugo, I say anyone who is left with a child, gives a story that doesn't match what happens, and ultimately there's trauma of the nature and to the extent broken ribs, blunt force trauma of such a tremendous degree that if that person is guilty of that crime, then it doesn't really matter the amount of money. Let's face it, the state of California paid millions of dollars to get him off death row. And if he's a killer of a child 20 months old, I don't know how anyone here could disagree with what I'm saying, and that is that we should go through all means necessary to convict him if he's guilty of that.
What would the range of charges be here? I mean, would the high range, the high end, be a second-degree murder charge?
Well, I'm not an appellate lawyer, but the whole case has now been reversed. I'm not sure that there's any impediment to any of the charges that could be leveled against him at this time.
And Mr. Carbone, you still believe that Benavides is a child rapist and killer?
I have no doubt in my mind that he's responsible for the trauma that occurred to Consuelo Verdugo. I would want, again, to see how the witnesses performed on these issues rather than speculate. Opinions are just that, opinions. I think just because somebody wrote something down on a piece of paper doesn't make it so. On the other hand, these are learned individuals, and it would take time to work with experts now in order to really test those theories.
Go ahead. You have the last word, David Torres. We've got about 30 seconds.
Just very briefly, I think that when I said it'd be a waste, what we have to keep in mind is that there is a viable defense in this case. And the viable defense was discussed, I believe, at the time of trial, and it was also articulated about by Astrid Happenstall, who happens to be one of the experts that was consulted in this case. I've had cases where I've seen people hit by vehicles 20, 40 miles per hour, and to see the damage that that can cause. Again, if there is that type of defense that can be proven, I think that that is a viable defense, and I think that that's something that would be considered by his attorneys.
All right. David Torres, Robert Carbone, Olivia La Voice, thank you all for your time. I really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. I'm back with a final word right after this.
Springtime is the right time to get your vehicle ready for the summer heat. Bill Wright Toyota is the right choice to keep your vehicle running like new. Freshen up your air conditioning system with our genuine Toyota AC refresher service, now only $129.99. Take advantage of a $25 prepaid gift card when performing a front or rear brake job. And buy tires with confidence with employee pricing and a 30-day price match guarantee. Schedule your next visit at BillWright.com. Factory trained technicians and genuine Toyota parts. Get more than you expect, only at Bill Wright Toyota.
Make your choice and get a little more this weekend at More Furniture for Less.
Plus, there's no money down on bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, and mattresses.
Then choose either no interest till January 2021
or no interest for 18 months, and we'll subtract the tax.
Either one you choose, there's no interest with free same-day shipping.
So this weekend, choose your savings and get a little more at More Furniture for Less.
This is Alice. She has the AT&T DirecTV bundle.
I get tons of HD.
Spectrum has tons of HD, on demand, and the sports channels are included.
DirecTV Select doesn't include sports channels, and I had to get a Cinema Connection kit to watch on demand.
And you get that ugly satellite dish.
Get Spectrum TV $29.99 a month. Call 855-432-2999.
And Spectrum Internet starts at 100 megabits with no data caps.
My starting speed is only 50 megabits. Spectrum is 2 times faster.
Get Spectrum Internet, $29.99 a month. Call 855-432-2999.
And Spectrum Voice has unlimited nationwide calling with no additional taxes and fees.
I'd switch, but I'm in one contract for TV, a second one for internet. I could pay hundreds to cancel.
Spectrum has no contracts, and they'll help buy out yours.
I'm calling Spectrum.
Spectrum TV, Internet, and Voice, $29.99 a month each. Call 855-432-2999.
And that is Kern County In Depth for this weekend. For all of us here at 17 News, I'm Jim Scott. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Kern County In Depth with Jim Scott is a production of Kern Golden Empire Television. For more information on how you can contribute, simply visit kerngoldenempire.com. You can also like us on Facebook and give us your feedback at Kern County In Depth.